Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I'm going to be covering Death. He made his first appearance in Marvel Comics, issue number 1000, that was released in August of 2019. He's the mutant son of Apocalypse, and along with his siblings, he was one of the first Horsemen of his father. Having an unspecified height and weight, although when compared to the mutant Storm, I would estimate that he stands at least 6'3" and weighs a solid 220 pounds. Having no hair, jet black skin, and a unique silver scarab beetle embedded in the back of his head, due to him considering scarabs sacred. Now, notice that I didn't mention his eye color, because we never see his face, and if you look into his eyes, that means certain death. With him having a death stare that consists of him releasing a disintegrating mist through his eyes, which can reduce any living thing into mere ashes within a few seconds. This ability seems to be at least slightly uncontrollable, with it being automatically unleashed at full power whenever he removes his helmet, which apparently helps him regulate his power similar to Cyclops' visor, and ironically is fashioned like the head of the Egyptian god of death, Anubis. Now, he's not the strongest or fastest of his siblings, but we can infer that he at least has low-level superhuman strength, durability, stamina, and agility, being somewhat proficient with a sword, wielding the black bone of Amduat as a sword-bearer of Arakko. He also has functional immortality, being thousands of years old just like the rest of his immediate family. The only obvious weakness that Death has is that he's not immune to his own powers, with it being possible to use a mirrored surface to reflect his death stare back at him, although it can only injure him and not kill him. Now, it should also be noted that although he has some good qualities, such as being described as patient, loyal, and being referred to as a charmer by Storm, Death is definitely a savage just like the rest of the Arakkii mutants, not hesitating to give someone death as a gift. And unlike some honorable Arakkii, such as White Sword, Death has no problem at all with using any tactic necessary to give himself an advantage in battle. Now, thousands of years ago, Death, his siblings, and his parents were among the many mutants of Okkaran that fought valiantly against the Amenthi daemons who attacked their homeland. The struggle itself would last thousands of years and would precipitate the divide of the Okkaran mutant island into Krakoa and Arakko. The Arakko mutants would be sealed away in the Amenth dimension and spend the eons being hardened by war, while Apocalypse was to gather up mutants from around the world to prepare for a potential subsequent invasion by the daemons. But eventually, when Apocalypse's wife, Death's mother, named Genesis, would unexpectedly come under the control of the Annihilation entity and lead the Amenthi Army to finally overthrow Arakko, Death and the other Horsemen would be forced to follow their mother, now being in command of the massive daemon armies that were their enemies for all these years. Now, while the plan to invade Earth was unfolding on one front, Death would be backed up by the Horsemen and the massive armies of Amenth to conquer an important province of Otherworld named Dryador. After defeating Dryador, Death and the Horsemen would lay siege to the Starlight Citadel, which was basically the capital of Otherworld. In the middle of this siege, they would be reunited with their father Apocalypse, who had been led there by Summoner, along with a squadron of Krakoan mutants. Thinking that their father had gone soft and acting on the orders of their mother Genesis, the first Horseman would attack their father and almost take him out if he wasn't extracted by his fellow Krakoans. This battle would be interrupted by the powerful ruler of Otherworld named Saturnyne, who froze everyone in place and confronted Death about his leading the army into her lands. Death stayed stone-faced, even as Saturnyne used her powers to temporarily turn him into a child. However, on behalf of Amenth, Death would agree to a proposal for a Ten of Swords tournament, which would supposedly settle this conflict. Each of the two teams would then gather their sword bearers, with Death and his sister War being two of the first chosen for the sword bearers of Arakko. Death and Famine would go on to barely recruit the reluctant White Sword, and then hunt down Death's prophesied sword, the Black Bone of Amduat. We'd later see both teams go to Otherworld to take part in Saturnyne's pre-tournament banquet, with Death having quite a fondness for his eventual opponent, Storm. The two would even share a steamy dance, although she would kindly reject his advances. Subsequent to this, we'd see the tournament start, and Death would take part in various challenges, winning them all. He would even be responsible for paying the powerful reality warper Mad Jim Jaspers to poison Wolverine's and Storm's drinks to turn off their powers. And although things didn't go according to plan with Wolverine, Storm's powers would be affected, with Death facing off against her in front of a vampiric crowd of Sevalith. But as we all know, Storm is a very effective fighter, even without her mutant abilities, using her prowess and wit to not only shatter his blade, but to reflect his own powers against him, which gave her just enough advantage to impale him with her sword. The rush of blood was obviously irresistible to the vampiric crowd, who didn't hesitate to pounce on Death, although he would ultimately survive. After this defeat, Death would heal up, but would be considered a quote-unquote guest of Sevalith, working for its twin rulers. From this point, we'd see Death go on to have various adventures, helping out other heroes such as Wolverine and Captain Britain on different occasions. But ironically, although Death vowed to be supportive of mutant kind, he turned down freedom on more than one occasion, claiming that he was having way too much fun with the Sevalith, which I guess it's reasonable for a harbinger of death to enjoy being around a bunch of vampires. Now, for his powers and abilities, and his influence on the Marvel Universe, for my 1 to 10 rating, I'll give the first Horseman Death a rating of 6, which is an expert rating. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and join the new Sage.